Hey everybody, it is Kerry, and I have got a monster of a power station here to show you today. This is the brand spanking new Bluetti Elite 200 V2. And when I say this is a beast, I am not kidding around. What a monster of a power supply. Let's talk specs. 2,073.6 watt hours. That's right, almost 2,100 watt hours of storage capacity in this thing. That is far more than any other power station that I've tested. This thing is an absolute beast of a power station. Output, 2,600 watts of output. I can't imagine when I would ever use 2,600 watts of power. That is absolutely insane. On top of that, it has Bluetti's lifting mode, which will allow it to bump up for a period of time at a higher output. And what's that? 3,900 watts. 3,900 watts of output. I don't even know how I'm going to test that. That's a lot of power ability there. It's got Bluetti's app, so you can manage it and monitor it remotely. Love the app. Absolutely love using that. Makes it real easy to check things out, check the status on it, and make sure everything's working properly. Inside, we've got automotive grade LiFePO 4 sails. These things are supposed to last 6,000 life cycles. Now, by life cycles, that means how many times you can take it from 0% to 100%, and it will still be able to charge up to 80% of its rated capacity. 6,000 times. Now, if you are draining this thing and recharging it every single week, my math doesn't even work that good. What is 6,000 times 52 or divided by 52? That's a lot of years. A lot of years. 15 years or so of use if you're recharging this thing every week. And now, granted, some people may charge this way more often if you're using this in a workshop or some other type of situation. For us, we are talking about this in terms of camping and overlanding. That's what we do here. That's how we're going to refer to this, not as a home UPS or a computer backup system. Or that's not our style. This is for camping and overlanding. This thing should last you 15 years easily. Size-wise, what do we got size? We have 13.78 inches by 9.84 inches by 12.74 inches with a weight, and this is no lightweight, this thing weighs 53.35 pounds. So it does pack on the weight a little bit. It's not something you're dropping in your backpack and carrying up a hill to run your Starlink. This thing is pretty heavy, but for what's packed into this, that's incredible. For the weight and the size, to have over 2,000 watt hours is market leading. There's nothing else out there that has that capacity in this small of a form factor. In fact, there are 1,000 watt units that are this big. So it is quite remarkable that Bluetti has packed all of that into this size. So heavy, yes, but well justified for what you have. Input wise, on the AC side to charge this thing, 1,800 watts of input. I just put a 2,000 watt inverter in the Jeep, so I could actually charge this thing at 1,800 watts, which is crazy. On the DC side, it can take 1,000 watts. I don't even know how I would get 1,000 watts of DC into this thing. My Bluetti Charger 1 will max out, I think, at 560 watts, which would still charge this from dead to full power in 4 hours. So that's still pretty amazing, right? You would take a lot of solar panels strung together to get 1,000 watts of input. So crazy specs. Can it work as a UPS, an uninterruptible power system in your home or office? Absolutely. The cutover time is less than or equal to 15 milliseconds. So your vast majority of devices are not even going to flinch at a 15 millisecond switchover. So your TV, most computers, they're just not even going to go down in the time it takes for this to cut over to being a battery backup for those things. Not something we're going to use, but good to know. You know, if we're maybe expecting a storm or something, I could plug all my network attached storage devices into here so that they don't spin down or get power loss in case of a power outage. Maybe something I would use, maybe not. In terms of camping and overlanding, no, it's not something I'm going to care about. Noise level, it's pointless for me to even go get my noise meter. This thing is whisper quiet. In most situations, this thing's running 16 dB. The ambient noise in this room is greater than 16 dB, so I can't even detect the sound from this thing. I don't have a quiet enough room to measure the sound coming out of this. Now, when it's in, you know, if it's really low and you're charging it at well over 1,000 watts, it's going to bump up that noise level a little bit. It's going to get into the 30, 40 dB range for a short period of time. But that's, so what? You're charging it. Normal operation, not going to hear this thing. Absolutely whisper quiet. So, what do we have in terms of ports on this thing, right? Okay. We have 4 AC ports, 120 volt here in the US. Absolutely great. Love it. I think on a unit of this size, having 4 AC ports, even if we're talking about overland and camping uses, that's fine. Don't care, right? I mean, I might have my Stoke Voltaics Nomad cook system in here. I might have my Joule kettle plugged into it. Who knows, right? But 4 AC ports on a unit this size, not going to complain, right? It's got 2 USB-A ports at 15 watts. I think that's plenty. I rarely use USB-A, but there's a few things that don't like charging off the faster ports. So having 2 of those, just fine. You got 2 USB-C ports at 100 watts. This is my one of 2 issues I have. I have all this power, and I have a bunch of devices that need power that are all running USB-C that need between 65 and 100 watts. Just off the top of my head, I got my MacBook Pro. I've got Starlink. I've got my iPhone, my iPad. Those can take higher power. I have radios that need to be charged. I've got drone batteries that need to be charged. I've got camera batteries that need to be charged. I've got a handful of devices. Now, a couple of those things I could run off here. Let's cut that down. Let's say I have 5 to 6 devices that could really take USB-C between 65 and 100 watts. Please give me another row of USB-C ports on here. That would really make this an awesome unit for me, for most overlanders. USB-C, everything is running off USB-C. So that's really what I see as being the one negative on here. It could use more ports. Is it okay? Does it work? Yes, absolutely. You can make it work for most applications, but I would love to see more USB-C ports. On the 12 volt port, I don't have to tell you, I despise this port. It is the industry standard, so every power station needs to have it. But the fact that it was designed for the thing that you plug into it to pop out of it easily, it should not be the industry standard, and yet it is. But on top of this, I would like to see something else. I would like to see 5521s, Mini Andersons, something that gives a more solid connection for when we're bouncing down dirt roads. This DC port will tend to have whatever is plugged into it come out of it. It is not a very secure port. It's fine when you're at base camp and nothing's moving, but if you're in a moving vehicle going off-road, you hit some washboards, boom, your fridge gets unplugged and you don't know it. So there's that. So give me some other ports that are more secure. I would love that. We've got our XT60 for our DC input. just fine. That's perfect. We got our AC port over here for our power, and we have a circuit breaker switch over here in case we need that. So that's all the features on here. In the app works great. You can monitor it. You can turn things on or off. You can see what the power output is. You can see what the power input is. I love that. When this thing's in the back of the Jeep, I want to be able to make sure that it's getting charged properly, that everything that should be getting power is getting power. So I love the app. One more thing. So that's going to be 3 things, right? I want more USB-C ports. I want more DC ports. I want one more thing. I want an alert that tells me when this thing is below a certain level. Maybe I can set it to 10% or 5%. I want this thing to beep at me. I want a notification on my phone, something to tell me I'm running out of power. Now, granted, with this monster here, I'm going to be hard pressed to run out of power, just to be fair, right? I'm probably not going to run out of power anytime soon. But in those situations where I am beginning to run out of power and I need to take action to start a vehicle up or do something to make sure that this thing doesn't die, an audible alert from this thing, that would be awesome. So please, Bluetti, hope you're listening. Those are the only 3 things that would make this an even better unit. So maybe in a V3, we can see some of those suggestions I'm making there. Other than that, it's a great unit. Tons of power. But we took this thing out. I took this thing out on a solo camping trip. I ran my Stoke Voltaics cook system. I cooked breakfast. I cooked dinner. I ran my CPAP machine. I ran my diesel heater off of it. Absolutely flawless. And this thing was sitting outside in 20-degree weather. Absolutely perfect. Totally fine. At the end of my 2 days, it was down to about 54% power. Totally happy. But let's talk about power for just a moment. All right, this thing's 2,000 watt hours. You can get a 500, you can get a 768, you can get 1,000. What do you need in terms of power? Do you need something this big? Can you get by with something smaller? It really doesn't take that much to figure out what your power requirements are. You know, you could look at your phone, your cameras, your drones, all that. You could add it all up and figure out how much power do I need every day. For me, I need right around 550 watt hours per day. That's going to allow me to cook. It's going to allow me to have my CPAP machine. It's going to run a diesel heater. Now, during the summer, that requirement actually goes down a bit. But during the winter times when it's colder, I'm running right around 550 watt hours. So given that, 3.5 days on this without needing to put any power into it, which is great because during the winter, it's usually really overcast and solar panels aren't going to work for me. So if it starts getting too low, I'm doing a 4 or 5 day trip, I might have to supplement that power with something. I might have to turn my vehicle on and waste some gas to use my charger one or my 2,000 watt inverter to put some power into it. But typically over 3 or 4 days, there's going to be enough daylight, there's going to be enough sky where I can get some solar panels and put some juice into it without any problem. So figure out what your power requirements are and how long do you need to be able to go to stay completely off grid without having to recharge. If you have I must recharge every single day, well, are you trying to do 2 or 3 day trips? Because that's going to be a limiting factor. And you might need to increase your budget to be able to get a bigger power station. So that's how I look at it. So for my camping trip, absolutely perfect. Loved it. Tons of power. Don't have to worry about it. I could go all electric with my cooking without blinking an eye because I knew I just had a ton of available power here. But there's one more thing I want to try. Now, this thing has some pretty crazy power output capabilities. And just for fun, I think I'm going to go put that to the test right now. Okay, just for the hell of it, I have got to see if I can run my miter saw off the Elite 200. I have no idea what the power draw on this thing is. Does it even tell me on here? No, it's a Chicago Electric, but some Harbor Freight brand at some point. But I want to see if it works. I've just got to try, right? I have never tried to run a major power tool off a power station. So far, so good. I saw it go up to 1,220 watts. Let's cut some wood. How about that? I can run a power saw off of a power station. That's just crazy. Well, there you have it. This is the Bluetti Elite 200. Their newest, biggest, baddest, meanest, largest capacity portable power station. And it is just a monster. It's not for everybody. You know, you got your price point, you got your size, you got your weight. Maybe a lot of people, maybe even most people, don't need 2,000 watt hours when they're overlanding or camping. But if you do, here's your unit, and it's going to do a great job. So for more information, check out the links below. Check out bluetti.com. It is just an awesome, awesome product, and maybe not something I'm going to use every time. But if I'm going to go out and I know that I need a diesel heater on top of a refrigerator, on top of, wanting to do electric cooking versus propane cooking, I've got a unit sitting right here that's going to do it. So thanks, Bluetti, for sending one over for us to try out. It is an absolute amazing, amazing unit. So thanks, everybody, for watching. This has been Kerry. Stay safe out there. We'll see you on the trails.